guys, hopefully all of you are doing well. Today we're going to be making a super easy Moscato pound cake. It's like an old-fashioned pound cake with a Moscato twist. So let's get started. We're going to start by taking our room temperature butter, 3 sticks, and we're going to blend it with about 2.5 cups of sugar. I've gotten questions in the past asking what does room temperature mean when it comes to butter and things like that in baking. Pretty much means that the temperature needs to be somewhere between 68 and 70 degrees. Just make sure the product is not in a melted state because that can ruin a cake if it's not called for the product to be that way. Okay, so now that our butter and our sugar is nice and fluffy, we're going to add 5 room temperature eggs, making sure that each egg is blended well before adding the next. For the exact measurements to this recipe, go to gdseasoning.com and the link is in the description below. Now I'm just going to mix in my pure vanilla extract, or you can use a lemon extract if you like, especially if it goes with the type of Moscato that you're going to be using. When we're baking, here's what our dry ingredient measurements should look like. They should be level. I just used the measuring cup and scooped it right out of my canister using the back of a knife to slide the excess flour back into the canister, okay? So make sure you do that when you're baking. Here I'm just going to add some baking soda and some salt right into the sifter, and I'm just going to sift everything right over a piece of parchment paper. Using that parchment paper is going to save us from having to wash another bowl later. But moving on to the Moscato. I have a sparkling Moscato here because it works best with this recipe. And I'm just going to remove the cork, and I'm going to show you how to do it. Once you remove that little metal piece, just hold your cork there with your thumb, and then you're going to take a towel and hold the cork in one hand in place while you twist the bottle with the other hand, and the cork will remove itself very easily. And you won't put your eye out, and you won't hurt anybody else in the process. You will never catch me drinking Moscato, but you will catch me cooking with it. I just don't like to drink it at all, but I know a lot of you do. That's why I was so glad to come up with this pound cake recipe, because we're finally using a dessert wine in a dessert recipe, okay? Now all we have to do is alternately add our dry ingredients and our Moscato, making sure we begin and end with the dry ingredients. Okay, you Moscato lovers, I want you to tell me in the comments below why Moscato. If it's your favorite, tell me why it's your favorite. Is it because it's sweet? Is it because it has a lower alcohol content? Let me know that in the comments below. I'm just dying to know. And if it's not your favorite, I want to know what your favorite wine is, period, to drink. I'll tell you mine. My top favorite is a Pinot Grigio. I like a Riesling. Those are my preferred whites. I also have some favorite reds, but we'll save that for another time. But just tell me what your favorite wine is. Okay, so our batter is all ready to go. Now we're going to move on to preparing our bundt pan, and I have some room temperature butter. About 1.5 tablespoons usually works for me, and I just use it to rub it all over the pan in those grooves and in those nooks and crannies. And then I just take my sifter and put a little bit of flour in it, and I just hit that tube really good with the flour and then spread it around the rest of the pan. And then you need to tap out the excess flour. Just tap that on out, right out, so you don't have any loose flour in the bottom of your pan. And then just pour your batter right into your pan. After you get the batter into the pan, then you're just going to go ahead and give it a nice shake. Make sure everything is nice and even. And we're going to bake it at 325 degrees Fahrenheit for about 1 hour and 15 minutes, or just until a skewer can be inserted and it comes out clean. Once the cake comes out of the oven and your house smells like wonderful pound cake, you're just going to let the cake stay in the pan for about 10 or 15 minutes. It'll start to pull away from the sides. And then you're just going to invert the cake onto a cooling rack and just carefully lift the bundt pan off of the cake. And then we're just going to let it cool for about 1 hour and 30 minutes to about 2 hours. It takes a while for pound cakes to really cool completely. And then I'm just going to move on to making our icing. So let's talk about this icing really quick. I baked 2 cakes this particular day, and on this cake, this was going to a friend of mine who preferred a very thin sheer icing. So this icing is 1 cup of powdered sugar to about 2 tablespoons of Moscato. On the other cake that I baked, I did a thicker, heavier glaze that really stands up and demands attention. A lot of people prefer a glaze like this in the upper left-hand corner. So both of these recipes will be included on the cake recipe, so you could choose which one you want to do. I do hope you guys decide to give this beautiful fluffy Moscato pound cake a try. I know you're going to love it. Thank you guys so much for joining me and hanging out and cooking with me. You know I appreciate it. Don't forget, this recipe and others can be found at gdseasoning.com. And I'll see you next time.